Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu struck a defiant note as he addressed the United Nations in New York, vowing to finish the job against Hamas in Gaza. Dozens of diplomats and officials staged a walkout before Netanyahu began. In a fiery speech, he repeated his vow that there will never be a Palestinian state.
It was less a standing ovation, more a standing exit. Before the Israeli Prime Minister even began, rows of seats at the UN were already empty. Delegates from several Muslim-majority and Latin American countries walked out, some with fists raised, chanting "Free Palestine."
Free Palestine!
But Benjamin Netanyahu pressed on, vowing to finish Hamas and accusing world leaders of bowing to biased media.
Giving the Palestinians a state 1 mile from Jerusalem after October 7th is like giving Al-Qaeda a state 1 mile from New York City after September 11th. This is sheer madness. It's insane, and we won't do it.
Netanyahu also made sure his speech echoed in Gaza, blasted from trucks fitted with loudspeakers along the border. And inside Gaza, Palestinians watched too. For Mohammed Abu Hajar, the likelihood of more bombing comes as no surprise.
I was hoping for a word here or there that things would ease and a solution would emerge, even the slightest glimmer of hope. But I was watching and I became frustrated. Netanyahu insists that the war must continue.
Relief may be in sight, at least according to Donald Trump. He claims a deal is almost ready to end the war and bring the hostages home.
I think it's a deal that will get the hostages back. It's going to be a deal that will end the war.
Trump has promised peace deals before. After a break on the golf course, he'll meet with Netanyahu on Monday. And more details of Trump's possible deal may then emerge.
For more, let's bring in journalist Karim El-Gawhary in Cairo. Karim, let's start right there with President Donald Trump. Deal or no deal? What do you make of his statement?
Well, it's not the first time that he gives himself very optimistic that we are very close to a ceasefire deal in the Gaza Strip. In fact, we know a lot from media reports, not a lot of details. We didn't hear really from Israel and from Hamas, nor did we hear from the mediators like Egypt and Qatar. It's very, very quiet around this. We know that there was a meeting with Arab and Islamic states on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly about this, and that they requested additional points. Also there, the details are not very clear. So until now, it looks again like a Trump PR show. We don't know really how serious it is, if there's serious progress. So we just have to really wait what is really coming out of this.
And for serious progress, of course, you also need both Israel and Hamas to be interested in a deal. And given Netanyahu's speech at the UN, which, as we saw in the report, was also blasted from trucks fitted with loudspeakers along the border to Gaza, what did he intend in doing that? What message is he sending there? Is it a threat to Gaza? Is it an openness, a signaling openness to a deal? What do you make of that?
Well, it certainly didn't signal an openness to a deal. It was a very belligerent speech. He was talking about finishing the job in Gaza. And not only that, he was blaming Western countries that recognize the Palestinian state, that they're basically backstabbing him and that he is doing the job for him, saying like basically keeping the barbarics out of the gate. But the speech in front of the UN Security Council of Netanyahu also showed how incredibly isolated he is. He was talking in front of empty ranks. He was heavily criticized also by the Israeli opposition. So that is not a strong stand to really continue the war. As we go to Hamas, this new plan depends on how much it includes the two main demands of Hamas. The two main demands of Hamas for ceasefire are that it's a permanent ceasefire, that is really the end of the war, and then there's a withdrawal of the Israeli army. Now, what we hear from the press is that there is some kind of plan for a gradual Israeli withdrawal without a timetable. Also, there the details are very sticky, very unclear. So. And one of the main Hamas was saying that if these points are met, they are ready to leave the administration of the Gaza Strip. So there might be progress here. But of course, one of the sticking points, what Netanyahu is always demanding, is the disarming of Hamas. And that there is no talk about here in this plan, it seems.
Right, but there is talk of an international transitional authority for Gaza, which could possibly be led by Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister. What kind of structure could actually gain legitimacy among Palestinians and also be accepted by key regional players?
Yes, I mean, there is this talk about forming some international Gaza transitional authority. Under that, we will have some kind of sub-Palestinian committees. But this Gaza Transitional Authority is to be the overreaching authorities in the Gaza Strip, and that it is headed, the talk is, by Tony Blair. Now, what a choice to pick Tony Blair. He is deeply unpopular in the Arab world. Everyone, of course, sees him as the one who entered the Iraq war together with, at that time, US President George W. Bush, on the false pretext of Saddam's weapons of mass destruction. So it's somebody, Blair, who is deeply unpopular, who is really not trusted in the Arab world. It's a very strange choice for this committee.
And maybe it even fuels talk of some Arab states threatening to pull out of the Abraham Accords, which somehow help to stabilize the region. Just very briefly, Karim, if they do pull out, what does that mean for the region and its stability?
I don't think they will. I mean, they are under pressure because other states internationally are talking about sanctions. We had a meeting in The Hague, on the sideline of the UN Security Council of the The Hague group, who is talking about sanctions against Israel. Now, those states who did the Abraham Accord and do business with Israel, of course, they are under Arab public opinion pressure. They are talking about that. Basically, there's no serious talk about. They're saying sometimes that they are summoning the Israeli ambassador, that there is a red line if Israel is annexing the Gaza Strip, the West Bank. But until now, no serious move that they might end the Abraham Accords.
All right. Well, journalist Karim El-Gawhary in Cairo. Thank you so much, Karim.
You're welcome.
For more, let's bring in Fawaz Gerges from the Middle Eastern Politics and International Relations at London School of Economics. Good to have you with us on the programme. So on Monday, Trump will meet Netanyahu. Now, given the speech that we just heard parts of, fiery speech at the United Nations, what can we expect to come out of that meeting?
Well, thanks for having me. I think the key question for all of us, will President Trump have the political will and the consistency to pressure the Israeli Prime Minister to end the war in Gaza? How far will President Trump push Netanyahu in order to bring about the end of the war in Gaza? Our experience with President Trump is that he's temperamental and he is a bit fickle. And also we know that the Israeli Prime Minister has outmaneuvered Donald Trump in the past 1 year or so. So I think my take on it is that Netanyahu will be studying Donald Trump very carefully on Monday when he meets with Donald Trump in the White House in order to see whether he can really change some of the aspects of the so-called American plan in order to really continue his war in Gaza, because he has made it very clear he will finish the job, he will complete the mission in Gaza.
How important is it for US President Donald Trump to actually make a deal happen, given that Arab leaders already publicly expressed concern over Israeli military actions aimed at further annexation of territory, in particular the West Bank, and Donald Trump's no to Israel annexing the West Bank? Does this mean that he's perhaps giving in to Arab pressure?
Well, I mean, we know that Benjamin Netanyahu has lost the world. We know that Benjamin Netanyahu has lost his closest Western allies, France, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Norway, and on and on. Benjamin Netanyahu has only one man, and that's Donald Trump. And that's why Donald Trump is the only leader in the world who could end the war. Netanyahu now is 100% dependent on Donald Trump. He has no wiggle room anymore. And Donald Trump seems that he is fed up with Benjamin Netanyahu's war because it has major political consequences for the United States, not just for Israel. And after his meeting, after Donald Trump meetings with Arab and Muslim states this week, he got the point that this war itself now, impacts America's relations with the Arab and the Islamic world. And that's why I think Donald Trump has tremendous leverage over Netanyahu. The question, to come back to the question, will Donald Trump show consistency? Will he have the guts to tell Netanyahu enough is enough? Let's end this war. But regardless, even if he succeeds, the devil lies in the details, because what we know about the American plan is extremely complicated, and it's really a minefield. It could implode, given how complex and how difficult the situation is now in Gaza.
Now, just briefly, if you would, Fawaz Gerges, you keep emphasizing Donald Trump's fickleness. What could sway him to no longer pressure Netanyahu as much as he seems to be doing now? What could change his mind?
Netanyahu could basically outplay and outsmart Donald Trump, as he has. But I think, Benjamin Netanyahu's room of maneuver has shrunk. You've seen yesterday at the United Nations, 1,000 diplomats of 50 countries basically departed the hall when Benjamin Netanyahu came to speak at the United Nations, according to the Washington Post. The entire world now, condemnation of Israel's continuation of war in Gaza. Widespread accusation that by the International Criminal Court and the Human Rights Organization that Israel committed a genocide. I think Donald Trump now might take on it, if you ask me, 1 out of 10. I would say that 6 or 7, Donald Trump will basically impress on Netanyahu that he must end his war in Gaza. But regardless, even if you have a ceasefire, Benjamin Netanyahu made it very clear he will never accept a Palestinian state. And he basically vehemently criticized the 150 states out of 193 that recognize Palestine.
Right.
And also, how do you end the war in Gaza? Will Israel pull out all of its troops? Will the Palestinian Authority play a major role? Who will basically rebuild Gaza? Gaza has been destroyed. There are many, many questions, but for now, the entire world wants the war to end, wants the loss and the suffering of the Palestinians to end, and also wants the Israeli hostages to go back to their beloved ones in Israel.
Indeed. Fawaz Gerges there from the Middle Eastern Politics and International Relations at London of Economics School. Thank you so very much.